Hey, how's it going? We're SideQuestCrafting, and after spending the last 8 months making 8 potions and a tree trunk base, we kind of want this next project to just be a little bit easier. And by easier, I mean we're going to make a lamp. Well, sort of a lamp. It lights up. Stardew Valley is one of my favorite games of all time. In the game, there are these nature spirits called Junimos. And the Junimos just kind of hang around and collect things and support the player's resistance to corporate greed and are all around adorable and magical. When you reach a milestone towards restoring the town's community center, they come out of their hut with a little star that they hang on the mantle. It is just super adorable and cute. The 1.6 update for the game came out on PC a few months ago. I don't have a PC, so while I do have a PC. It's right there. I don't have the game on PC, so while I patiently wait for the game update to come to consoles, I want to build a light up Junimo holding up the little star. Holding up the little star just because I want to. Now we have our sketch here of what we want the Junimo and the star to look like, as well as the base that we want the Junimo to be sitting on. The star is just gonna be one color, and the Junimo is hopefully going to be a bunch of colors. The base is going to resemble the ground and the grass and such that is from the game, specifically during the spring season. And then the Junimo and the star are going to be made out of resin. And we're going to be following a similar process that we did in our potions video, where we first sculpted what we wanted to make a mold out of, which in this case is going to be the Junimo and the star. And then we're going to make a mold out of those sculpts, and then we're going to pour resin into those molds. This time, we're not going to be using air dry clay. We're actually going to be using Monster clay. And Monster clay is an oil wax-based modeling clay that does not dry out. And it does not need to be cured. And it's reusable because it doesn't dry out. So let's get to sculpting. Time to the oven. So we're in the garage and we just finished molding the Junimo, half of the star, and the little leaf that sits atop the Junimo's little noggin. Also just finished spraying them with some clear acrylic primer. And we'll get to why we used the primer, and also why we only have half a star a little bit later. Right now, while those are drying, we are going to focus on making the walls for our mold boxes for those sculpts to sit in when we pour the molds.
Oh, I hate the sound. Is it done yet?
The Junimo and the star and the leaf are all done drying from the acrylic primer. And the reason that we used the acrylic primer is to mainly just give it a hard, shiny exterior, because the mold is going to take on whatever texture is of the sculpt that is being cast. And then that will apply to the polyurethane resin that we're going to end up casting these in. That leads me into my next point of why we only have half of a star. We're going to try to make this star hollow. Our plan is to put this star into the mold box and pour resin on it. No, that's a lie. Pour the mold on it and then allow that to cure. Then take the star out. So then we just have the impression of the star, and then line the star with very thin layer of clay. We're going to then fill that with more mold. So then we will have 2 star molds, one with an impression and one with an extrusion. And those are going to fit together, and hopefully thanks to that thin layer of clay, there will be a teeny tiny gap in between the 2 molds. So then we should theoretically be able to pour the resin into that groove and get a hollow shell that we will do twice and then glue together to make a star, I think. And then the Junimo is going to be a 2-part mold. We're going to put the Junimo in their mold box, fill half of it with more of this clay, fill the top part with mold, take that out, remove the clay cushion, flip it over, fill that other part, that other half with mold, and then we will have 2 halves that we can then puzzle together and fill that with resin. This all sounds very confusing and I hope it makes sense. And then the leaf is the simplest of the bunch. Put the leaf in the box and fill it with mold and get the impression. I feel very confident about this. So let's just get to it. Okay, so it's been way longer than the recommended cure time of 4 hours. We got done pouring these molds at like 5 in the morning, and I could not be bothered to do any more recording after that. We did have to line this one with some tape because there was a teensy bit of leaking, and we're just going to demold these and see how they look. Then we'll check back in. So we got more mold mix. We also found this little doodad to hopefully dye the mold a bit better. Up until this point, we've been using resin dyes to try to dye the molds. Those have not really been working out so well. Everything has been prepared to move forward to the second half of the mold process. And we also lined the seams with clay so that hopefully no mold will slip through the cracks if there are any, which there are. Unbeknownst to us, hot glue does not really like to stick to cured silicone. I am 90% sure that it is not sealed down here, but we have tape at the ready for any leaks. We also put little channels for when we pour the resin in. These channels should allow any excess resin as well as air bubbles to escape. And then one last thing, we forgot to make registration marks on this mold, and may the universe take pity on you if you forget to make registration marks, because we tried to drill a hole into the silicone. Once silicone has cured, it is not to be trifled with. We are going to put on our protective gear and we are going to finally get to finishing these molds. So the molds are all finished and they look great. We're really happy with them. The Junimo is not as shiny as the star. I think I didn't apply enough of the
light dye.
Again, I might have not put enough coats of the glossy acrylic on the Junimo sculpt. And on top of that, I think the Junimo was waiting in the molds for so long that the clear coat also started to flake off. Next steps are to reassemble these molds and to pour in our polyurethane resin mixture. We're also going to be adding in some mica powders and some resin dyes. For the Junimo, we're mostly going to be sticking to these pearlescent mica powders because we want the Junimo to actually change colors. The star's going to be its yellow color, and then the little leaf is going to be green. I'm excited, also nervous. So we're just going to get to it. probably thinking, oh, it's the next day. Well, 'tis not. We started pouring resin on Wednesday and it is now Sunday. And we got footage for all of this, but after like the second pour, it just got very repetitive. And essentially we just kept running into little issues. Like with the Junimo, we started off with way too much mica powder. While mica powder is great, it's pretty and sparkly and magical, and it diffuses light, but too much of it can inhibit light. Becomes too cloudy and light has a hard time shining through it. So we reduced the amount of mica powder, and then we reduced the amount of mica powder even more. Weirdly enough though, the second one is the best, and that is because the third Junimo has way too many air bubbles. I don't know what happened between them. Maybe it was our rigorous stirring and the lack of a pressure chamber to get rid of all these air bubbles. So we're going to go with the second Junimo. And with the stars, we just kept running into the issue of the resin not distributing itself evenly throughout the mold. So we would get these casts, and while it's a good cast, it just has weak spots where the resin is too thin in some spots. So we kept pouring different tests and we kept getting similar issues, and then we realized that the table wasn't even. And once we fixed that, then we got an even cast and it looks great. And then somehow we managed to get another even cast. We're excited to put these two halves together, but before we can do that, we have to sand. We don't have to. We want to sand and polish the Junimo and the stars, and then we're going to work on the electronics, because we can't put the star together until the electronics are worked on, because the light is going to go inside the star and then underneath the Junimo, and then we have to still work on the base that all of this is going to sit on. And I'm really excited, and Caleb's really excited to get started on the electronics, so let's get to it.
To light up our project, we're going to be using an RGB NeoPixel and an LED filament. The NeoPixel LEDs are individually addressable, which means that we can program an Arduino to cycle through 7 different colors and a rainbow effect to light up our Junimo. And the LED filament will go inside the star, lighting it up from the inside. So we're gonna solder some lead wires to all these components and buttons and create this cute little board to hold everything together.
The base is all done being painted. It still looks a bit rough right now, and I hope it will all come together once we add the grass. We also did the arms, legs, and stem for the Junimo. We have a bunch of this plastic tubing lying around our house because our cat likes to chew on electrical cords. Here is our camera power cord wrapped in the plastic tubing so our cat does not break it and also get electrocuted. We just took some of this tubing, filled the ends with hot glue, and spray primed them in a matte black. Now that all that's done, one of the last steps before we get to final assembly is to top this base with grass. This actually confused us for quite a bit of time on what grass we were going to use exactly, because there's a ton of different grass techniques for dioramas. There's flocking and moss and making little clumps of grass by hand and gluing them. There's a static grass applicator, but we really wanted long, fluffy grass for our Junimo to sit on. And then I had a possibly
dumb idea.
Synthetic fur. I thought if we can dye this fur green, it might look like grass. I have concerns. Since synthetic fur doesn't really play well with fabric dye, the next best option would be to use an airbrush. We don't have an airbrush, so the next best option would be to dry brush the fur. Dry brushing is essentially just taking a tiny bit of paint on a dry brush and lightly. Dry brushing is usually used for applying highlights and shimmer. Apparently, it also works really well with synthetic fur. I tried it and it does actually work really well. I was able to get a lot of color variation. Am I concerned that it's going to look like we shaved the Grinch and put his fur on the top of this base? Yeah. Am I also concerned that this fur is a direct threat to my self-confidence? Also yes. So let's get to it. That took so long. I was expecting it to take some time, but I wasn't expecting it to take 3 days. And it looks good. I mean, it turned out great. And I could have probably painted this quicker too. It's tricky because when you go too fast, you can miss clumps of fur, and then it's very obvious that that piece of fur isn't painted. You kind of have to take your time when you're painting the fur. It's still not done yet though. Still gotta cut a hole in the center of it for the LED. When it goes onto the base, we still gotta trim it to the size of the base, and then maybe, I don't know, maybe mow the lawn a little bit. Cut some of these pieces down to make it look more like grass. All that's left is really the final assembly, and to bring all of this stuff together, to glue the star together and the arms and the legs and the stem to the Junimo and put them all on the base and put the electronics in. In case you're wondering why we haven't glued the star together yet, is because we were trying to figure out how we wanted to put lights into the star. Then on top of that, how to hide any wires that are coming out of the star and going to the base with the rest of the electronics. And I think we finally figured it out. We tested on one of the other Junimos that we're not going to use. It's got a little ponytail. The plan is we're going to light up the star with this LED filament. We are going to hide the wire in the Junimo's arm. The arm is still just a hollow tube. And then we're like, where are we gonna hide the wire once it gets past the arm? So we drilled a hole through the Junimo down to the center where the wire can connect with all the other LEDs and electrical in this hole. I don't want to be drilling a hole through the Junimo. Proper planning could have prevented this. I'm sorry. I feel bad, but We have to hide the wire. And then, yeah, we will get to all the details and the decorating and just wrapping this project up. So let's go. Be honest with me. Does this look like a green toilet seat cover? Our light up Junimo is all finished. It looks amazing. It looks so cute, and I'm so happy with how everything turned out. I mean, it looks exactly as we sketched and as we hoped it would. And just like from the game, I mean, I hope we did the game justice, and I hope we make all the little Junimos in the game proud with our statue to them. I'm just so happy with how it looks and everything lights up. I think this project was definitely a bit easier, but it still had a bunch of bumps in the road and a bunch of learning experiences, which was really fun in my opinion. Yeah, it got stressful, but it was also fun to learn new things and to problem solve, like the grass. Never done that before. I was really nervous about it, but I think it looks great. Also, the arms were weirdly the hardest part of this whole project, making sure this star was able to light up and be held up and stay up and not fall over. And I want to thank you for watching our video and for sticking with us through this project. Maybe pretty please like or subscribe or leave us a comment even, and let us know what are some of your favorite cozy games to play, or if you like Stardew Valley, what's some of your favorite things about Stardew Valley, and also what are some ideas that you guys have that you would like to see us build and bring to the channel. We have so many ideas planned, but we love hearing your ideas and reading your comments. And yeah, that's it. Now that the Junimo is all finished, let's have a look at our finished Junimo. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Also, these 2 Junimos that we're not using and these 3 stars that we're not going to move forward with, we're not throwing them away, we're not getting rid of them. We're going to make use of them, whether they're just sitting in the background of the studio or something, I don't know, but they're not going to waste. We are still going to have a use for them somewhere. Then yeah, just wanted to say that. They're not going to waste, I promise.